Chapter 1, Misunderstanding. In a small provincial town, surrounded by green hills and crossed by flowing rivers, lived the Kovalev family. Sasha and Irina had been married for 8 years, raising 2 children, 7-year-old Maxim and 4-year-old Liza. On the one hand, they had the most ordinary life, work, children's studies, everyday life. But on the other hand, cracks began to appear in their relationship. Sasha worked for a local construction company, often staying late at work or going on long business trips. Irina, spending her days taking care of household chores, felt that her life was gradually turning into a routine, and her feelings for her husband were no longer as bright as they once were. Sasha also succumbed to fatigue and stress. He spent more and more time working, instead of spending weekends with his family or spending evenings in general conversations with Irina. Irina began to feel lonely, as if she had been left on the sidelines of life, while Sasha was immersed in work. Chapter 2, The Turning Point. One day, at a school meeting where the children's progress was discussed, Irina met Maxim, one of the parents, who, as it turned out, worked in the same field as her husband. His name was Andrei. He was charming, attentive to details and, most importantly, always paid attention to Irina. They began to communicate, and this gave Irina a sense of life. Every time they met, Irina experienced a surge of energy and joy, which she had so lacked in her marriage. Andrei offered to participate in a certain project related to the improvement of the school, and so their meetings began. Chapter 3, Questions of Conscience. With each passing day, their communication became closer and more trusting. Irina shared her experiences with Andrei, and he listened attentively, supported her and promised to help in everything. Meanwhile, her feelings for her husband were becoming increasingly vague. Irina tried to cope with her own thoughts about what was happening. On the one hand, she was drawn to Andrei, because his energy and understanding were her salvation. But on the other hand, her conscience tormented her, and she could not get rid of the feeling of guilt for betrayal, even without crossing this line. Before going to bed, she often thought about how she could divide her life between 2 men. It was a kind of emotional confrontation. Sasha still loved her and cared for his children, but life had become so predictable and boring. Chapter 4, First Confession. One day, when they met again with Andrei, he revealed his feelings to Irina. "I understand that you have a family, and I do not want to be the cause of discord. But you are very dear to me," he said, waving into her eyes. These words captivated Irina. She felt her heart flutter, and for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was in love. However, instead of reciprocating his feelings, she caught herself thinking that even this closeness was unacceptable, and decided to limit her meetings with Andrei. She thoughtlessly made promises that their relationship would remain only at the level of friendship. But whether she could keep her promise was a big question. Chapter 5, Torn Masks. Nevertheless, Andrei did not leave the feeling of being in love, and he persistently invited Irina to meetings. She was approaching a difficult moment when she realized that she could not ignore her feelings. Having convinced herself that this was just a fleeting affair, she agreed to meet him again. And only this time they did not hide their true feelings between themselves. In the evening in a cozy cafe, after long conversations, their eyes met, and this became the moment when they could not resist their attraction. The first kisses were full of tenderness, passion, and a completely new sensation, a magical experience that Irina had dreamed of for many years. They spent that night together, and the lulling light of the moon breaking through the windows created the very atmosphere that Irina dreamed of. But she could not get rid of the feeling of guilt. She understood that she had lost control over events, and the consequences of this relationship could be catastrophic. Chapter 6, Internal Crisis. Having returned home, Irina tried to act as if nothing had happened. She was busy with the children, cooking dinner and discussing business with Sasha, but inside she was going through a real drama. As if she had a burden on her soul that was becoming heavier and heavier. One evening, when she and Sasha were watching TV, he suddenly asked, "Have you cheated on me? I think there is something wrong with you." This question threw her off balance. She simply remained silent, not knowing what to answer, still confused by her own feelings. Sasha continued to doubt and worry. He could no longer ignore the signals. He felt that something in their relationship had gone wrong, and not long before that he had intuitively picked up a strange response about her lack of. Chapter 7, Discovery. One evening, after spending the evening with Andrei, Irina came home and could hear snatches of conversations about what was happening around her. She burst into tears when she realized that she would find herself at a crossroads. Feelings for both men did not give her peace. Andrei called her again and this time asked to meet, considering the possibility of continuing their relationship. Irina understood that it would be difficult to stay away, and here, given all the chaos that arose around her life, she decided to put an end to her delusions. Irina decided to tell Andrei that they should break up. The next day she was meeting with Sasha and decided to start a conversation about the problems in their relationship. "I want to honestly tell you," she began, when her voice wavered. But her heart was pounding in anticipation. Chapter 8, Exposure. The next day, when the evening stopped the evening slowness, she called Sasha, knowing that he would be home without problems. He came, and sitting on the couch, she opened her soul. "I need to talk about our relationship. I feel that we are separated by..." She began to talk about her feelings, about how much she missed the time spent with him, and how every day it was becoming more and more difficult for her to imitate her old life. Sasha listened to her, and in his gaze there was something angry, and something a little stupid. Every day, and he was shaking with obscurities. When she hesitated for a moment and added, "I was with another," Sasha stopped breathing. His cheeks turned red, and panic sweat ran down his forehead. He was silent, but in his eyes there was a responsive excitement, which, despite all the horror of the situation, she fully justified. Chapter 9, Looking into the abyss. Their conversation grew into an emotional storm. Both sides began to lay out their experiences and fears. At this time, Sasha felt both pain and relief. "That means I have reasons to worry, that means I do feel something for you." Anna, sympathizing with him, understood that she was also being pulled to the bottom. One day, when they were completely silent, he cruelly said, "Maybe it would be better for me to leave this life, and it would be easier for everyone." Their eyes met, and at that moment a revelation occurred. Sasha only realized the scale of what was happening and felt offended. Sasha went into another room, throwing Irina on the couch, reflecting on what was happening. The words cut his ears. Their emotions were naked, and each of them experienced new, unprecedented feelings for each other. Chapter 10, In the footsteps of the past. Irina was left alone in silence, realizing that their relationship could only be restored through struggle. She thought about how wrong she was and how she could fix everything. Now she understood that it was communication with Andrei that became the catalyst for changes in her spiritual life. Despite the difficulties, she knew that this event was a signal not only that everything was lost, but also that she still had a chance to fix something. She remembered how long she had been looking for support and understanding, but perhaps she could still find it in her home and with her husband. Chapter 11, A new stage. A few weeks later, they visited a therapist together, who helped them understand difficult emotions and improve their relationship. Discussing problems and opening up internal feelings, they began to realize how important it is to be attentive to each other. Sasha, opening up, told how much pain he experienced after learning about another relationship. Irina admitted that her feelings for him were still deep, but responsibilities and routine pushed them away from each other. They began to work on restoring the lost connection, including more active communication about feelings and dreams. Chapter 12, Renewed choice. Sometimes, when they made difficult decisions, going through internal conflicts together, Irina realized that their connection had become stronger. Together, they began to find joy in small things, in walks, in family evenings together, and even in simple breakfasts. Most importantly, they heard and understood each other, learning to take care of their feelings. Time passed, and this new beginning formed their new image. They became more open and vulnerable to each other, as if they were blossoming anew in their relationship. Chapter 13, Rise and Fall. Despite the fact that their union became stronger, with each passing day, internal experiences and anticipation returned again when Irina made the decision to talk to Andrei. She wanted forgiveness, and she understood that her connection with him was no longer acceptable. These words, spoken at the moment when they met once again, darkened her throat. "I can't continue to communicate with you. I chose my family," she said. The meeting was full of emotional tension, but ultimately it allowed her to get rid of unnecessary burdens. Chapter 14, The Path to Yourself. The relationship with the children became even more meaningful. Irina realized that her marriage was not just a union, but the world that they were building together. Every moment spent with Max and Lisa brought her joy and reminded her of why she chose her husband. At the same time, Sasha also changed, became more attentive and caring. Their communication went deeper, and with each new conversation they gained a kinship, which reminded them how important it is to be close to each other. Chapter 15, The Testament of Trust. A few more months passed, and Irina and Sasha decided to celebrate their relationship by arranging a romantic evening. They chose an atmospheric place where they took their first steps in love, and this was the moment when their inner hearts became one. They ate together, discussed their dreams for the future, and at that moment each of them realized how important it is to have individual goals, but also to remain close to each other. To avoid getting lost in the routine, they set new goals. Chapter 16, The Power of Family Ties. Irina and Sasha realized that each of them brought their own valuable lessons to the relationship. The point of their conflict blossomed into a warm unity. The pressures that were pulling them to collapse now gave them the opportunity to look in the same direction. The world around them acquired meaning for them. Together they began to attend courses, travel, and make friends. Their children felt this uplift, and bright looks filled the house. They did not just warm each other in difficult times, now they sought joy and sincerity in every moment. Epilogue, a new life. A year after their recovery, the family gave up on their children and went on a trip to a European country, where they were able to live unforgettable moments. Each of them prestigiously celebrated their own achievements and successes. Irina realized that now they could move forward hand in hand. She learned to forgive and accept, and Sasha became the basis for her life. All the contradictions were in the past, and ahead was the peace and fullness of life. Many years later, they looked with pride at their relationship and the strength of their feelings, which managed to withstand the tests of time. Every evening at the family table turned into a healing conversation that strengthened their union. She proved that even after betrayal, restoration is possible, and their new love became a confirmation of this strength. And so, the Kovalevs found their true purpose and meaning, staying together throughout the difficult paths that brought them together. Their joint struggle became an example of the fact that the true power of love holds even in the most difficult trials, and life begins anew when you believe in each other.